Welcome, everybody, back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. I'm your host, Andy Burrows, and as always, I'm joined by my illustrious co-host, good friend, and my tag team partner, Mr. Adam Cousins. Adam, how are you, sir? It's a pleasure to finally make a podcast with you.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it, my man? That's why I didn't come alone this evening. Not only did I bring the guest, I brought a special co-host as well, just in case you were delivering beer to England.
No, yeah, I've taken a break from delivering beer. But first of all, why don't you tell us who our co-host is? Me and him have had a little bit of internet beef, shall we say, of recent times. But it's a pleasure to see him here, my man.
Thanks, my friend. Thank you very much.
Yes, so our co-host, our special guest co-host, we sponsor Pro Wrestling Carnage in Wales, and we also sponsor their tag team champions, Beers and Beatdowns, and we are joined by one half of those, Mr. Blanch. Evening.
Evening, fellas. How's it going?
It's all good, man. It's all good. And Adam, we pride ourselves on bringing on some great wrestling guests onto the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. We've done our work again today, my friend. We brought in one of the best to ever lace up a pair of wrestling boots. Adam, you are the king of the intro, my man. Who have we got today?
Wow. Well, as usual, yeah, the introductions belongs to me. I mean, where has this guy gone and not been a success is an idea. He's currently the NWA National Heavyweight Champion. He was also in the WWE, a four-time 24/7 champion, TNA Heavyweight Champion, and a Grand Champion. But he also wants us now to control our own narrative. Please welcome Ec3, the Overman, to the podcast. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm not quite the Overman yet. The Overman's when I reach my final form, and that will be when I become a three-time World's Heavyweight Champion. Looks like the NWA might be the place, but I just want to take 1 second. You know, I don't believe in saying I'm sorry. I hate when people apologize, especially for no reason. But I did keep you guys, delayed, waiting, wondering, questioning, was I even seriously going to show up? I was, but I had a wild and hectic day, and each and every day I live is absolute. Can I
Yes,
swear?
yes. Say what the fuck you like.
Fucking yes. That's what happens when you don't control your own narrative and you're controlling so many others. But it's an honor to be here. I love hitting a turnbuckle. Nothing beats a good hard turnbuckle. And I'm super happy Blanch is involved because I've never met a Blanch, and now I have.
Well, Mr. EC3, Michael, let's start with what you're up to these days. Obviously, Adam mentioned you're in the NWA now, but you are currently sitting in front of a wrestling ring. What consumes your time these days?
Well, in this moment, what I am starting is the CYN cooperative. Look, there's a lot of wrestling schools. There's a lot, there's some academies. There's an occasional factory, but this will be the first ever cooperative. So I've been working on this pretty diligently over the past, 6 months. And it's not just the physical location. Like, dude, I got a fantasy factory behind me. Like, this building is going to explode one day, but it's the material I'm preparing. And it's I've done a lot of writing, actual scribing, thoughts, theories about wrestling that have transcended into life. And I know I have something unique and nobody teaches, and it's very intricate, detailed, and special that I don't know if it's just for wrestling fans anymore. Like the wrestling part's just for wrestlers, but as far as fans and just civilians in general, I don't know. I'm like a jacked up. Should I say Jordan Peterson? I don't know. I'm just first name, maybe, but whatever. People hate him for some reason. I don't know. He seems all right, but just this soothsayer and this truth teller, and but the CYN cooperative going on behind me. So it's a physical location in Cleveland, Ohio. And the next phase, now that this is going, is to kind of bring it to wrestlers across the world. And how to do that would be probably via the internet. So I'm working on that.
Oh wow, sounds. Oh, I wish you all the luck in the world with that. The one question that we always start with our guests on every episode, and it's interesting to see. Yeah, it's always interesting to see what their response is. Especially from people that's still involved in the wrestling industry. What do you think of the wrestling industry in 2023?
I think it's leaving us wanting. I feel that the industry in this moment has kind of gotten away from the fundamental crux of what we are as storytellers in a very physical and realistic environment. And I think what we're missing truly is talent that fears being themselves. I think because of the advent of the internet and social media and instant reactions and constant feedback, a self-identity for a professional wrestler is hard to come by because you are influenced by so many other people's opinions that in lieu of putting yourself truly out there, like I have, and I know the results of that sometimes, in lieu of putting yourself truly out there, it's easier to pretend to be something. So I think fans, what they're missing, what the industry's missing, we all gravitate towards what is real. And in wrestling, I've met some of the most real people, most, creative, eccentric, interesting, diverse individuals, but they all kind of go into one mold and one form. And so that was the purpose of Control Your Narrative, was to allow talents to tell their story. It's never supposed to be a promotion. That was a misguided ambition by people that wanted to put money and think it was going to be $1 billion business. No, this is an idea. This is a movement. We're getting back to what that is. But I think the current wrestling climate lacks creativity, originality, and realism.
Just before I hand over to Adam and Blanch, do you miss the good old days? We talk all the time about, so me and Adam mention it on this podcast all the time, the social media aspect of it now. It's all a very react now. I mean, something can happen on a Monday Night Raw. Back in the day, you'd have to log on to the World Wide Web to find out what happened on Raw. And now it's literally instant. You know what I mean? Do you miss the good old days of wrestling? You know what I mean? I mean, now it's such a, I say this to Adam all the time. I miss the opening of Raw when you saw all the banners and the signs. Now they pan the camera around. Everyone is watching the show behind the phone, and I'm like, just watch the goddamn fucking show. I mean, I miss that. I mean, as someone that's still involved in the industry, do you miss the good old days?
We can wax poetic about the past. And I think one of my mission statements in the NWA was to kill the nostalgia that we, so deeply cling to, while at the same time, anytime something new and unique comes about, we turn it down. The good old days, I miss aspects of it. It's hard to say that everything was perfect because nothing ever is perfect. I do miss the reactions you can hear if you watch the 80s and you watch the 90s, you watch the aughts, the interest and the feeling of the live audience. And there is great things about being connected, and we are all connected via cell phones. But since the smartphone's advent, society and almost culture has kind of become looking at this instead of looking at that. So I miss aspects of the good old days. Now, there's a lot of bad in the good old days. There's a lot of bad fucking wrestling, let's be honest, too. Or I miss that we're afraid to go back to what works. But at the same time, I'm not the old man yelling at the cloud and saying, slow down, or the way we used to do it. How can we apply the greatness of what it was into what is currently, the transcended form of the genre, like with the athleticism and, the spectacle that it can be, and the high definition television and the ability to create worlds with content and the vast reach we all truly do have. I think I miss the fact that we can't see past what's in front of us and utilize what was good, what was great, what worked, and bring it to now to incorporate what is good, what is great, and what works.
Yeah, no, very well put. Ads?
Yeah, just to touch on that, because you made a good point about the sort of NWA, because I've started getting into it over the last year or so. We've got another co-host called Fiona who's been out there. She went to the Crockett Cup last year. She put me in touch with some of the guys. I've had Plunky on. I've had Saranalo on. I spoke to AJ Kazana Sunday. He was driving in his car to Disneyland to celebrate his birthday. And we got Jack Dane on Friday. Anyway, long story short, I've gotten into it. And what I like about NWA is you do have that there's always that intimate settings. It is very sort of 80s, 90s, like late 80s, early 90s setup. But you do use, or the NWA use, YouTube as a platform. 6:05 on a Tuesday, for argument's sake. They've got NWA Powers tonight. So you're incorporating the old in terms of setting with the new in terms of eyes on the prize, because like us in the UK, it would be 11:05 before it's on over here, and they just come back from Australia, and again, you've done a bit of touring in Australia. NWA done touring in Australia as well, so that puts eyes on the prize, but yet they can all watch it anytime. So I suppose that's the good point of social media, in that it's instantly accessible.
I definitely agree with that, and like, you know, being able to platform so many different things. The old way, in a sense, that I think we can get past is the proverbial like TV deal per se. Like if we're not on prime cable television, I think media is vastly changing. Cords have been cut. You know, networks are struggling to keep up because there's so many different ways and means to create content, stream content, develop products. And I think you can see that kind of how the news is. Like the main news still exists, but at the same time, their existence is trying to stomp out how new media is emerging. So there's definitely that opportunity that, I mean, truly anything can be seen. And it's not about maybe ratings as much as it used to be. It's about creating, I guess I'd almost say, diehards in your brand, in your niche. That, I mean, if you have 2 million fans that are spending $1, or you have 400,000 fans who are spending $100 a year, the less fans seems to be more. I'm not a math major, but I think that's right. I think that's 4 million. Hypothetically, I believe it was. But the ability to do that, but at the same time too, NWA probably has a perception that they're not on cable television. So are they legitimate? Yes, we are legitimate, but I do think it fully hasn't turned that way. And then even cable still exists. You know, my parents don't understand what a FlixNet is or a Prime Amazon, but you know, on the cable box, they know who's going to be on at 8 o'clock. So
yeah,
it's a benefit. And that is, I think what really lacks is that's the biggest benefit to up and coming talent. So a lot of things I'm going to try to teach, especially to CYN cooperative prospects, like you have the ability to reach everybody in the world if you work hard enough, you're consistent, and you provide something they don't, you know, they'd never seen before, or you give them something to latch onto. So how do I get booked? How do I get over? How do I get a contract? Utilize this. Do what works in the old school, cultivate a character that garners interest and attention, take that and use this new medium to constantly shove it down people's throats, and hopefully it catches on. Because if people start talking about you, people are going to start booking you. If people are booking you, the internet's talking about you within wrestling, you know, I know one promoter that books strictly off what the internet says, so you might have a shot there. So definitely options.
Yeah, Blanch, what have you got for our guest, my friend?
As somebody who works and books in a promotion in Pro Wrestling Carnage, we find it very difficult that we've tried to find our niche in the market as well, because there's so many promotions in this part of the world, and we try to find that we want to be a platform for people that need this as a stepping stone to go to bigger things. There's some really good schools in Wales. There's some really rubbish schools in Wales. But I feel like realistically, people aren't being realistic. When they're starting to be a wrestler, they think they can just learn moves and that's kind of it. And the fact that you've taken it to the stage where you want to give them the full journey of the why and the how and the creativeness it's what's really missing. Because like a lot of wrestling schools will just literally teach you moves and pack you off on their way after they've taken your money. The fact that you've taken it and creatively want to bring something back, I think is really quite inspiring for somebody that's trying to do it themselves as well. So I just want to say thanks for that, of course. But what do you think? Do you think realistically, when people enter the business, they aren't realistic with how it works now? Do you think is that missed because of the way it's quite a quick turnover and people become wrestlers too quick, or they meet people and go and become a friend with somebody and then they get into the business quickly? Or do you think, I don't know, do you think what you want to do is what I think is what's needed? I creatively think people need to bring emotion back into wrestling and be different and stand out and do something that's not seen. So what do you think? Do you think people aren't realistic enough?
No, everything you say I'm in accordance with and agree with. I don't know how old you are, but I'm like a later millennial, right? So I did grow up in a time where I did not have instant access to things. Like I had to rewind tapes, take them back to Blockbuster. I had to trade to get wrestling videos from Japan and Mexico.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
My uncle's basement to find adult, entertainment as a young lad. Like,
Sounds familiar?
Everyone's got that uncle, haven't they?
Yeah.
We had to work for it. Whereas now with everything so accessible, I think younger people coming in think fame is immediately accessible. And I think that has been a detriment to how talents can make a living in this, because so many are desperate for TV or to be seen, that the negotiation factors are like, as a businessman would do, this person's better than this person, but this person will do it for next to nothing while this person costs money. And in theory, he doesn't necessarily, or she doesn't necessarily mean bigger business at this time. So I think coming up in that way, just for the sake of fame, because they think with fame comes money, it doesn't. There's delusions of grandeur, certainly. In addition to the creativity we're speaking about and how badly we want to see that instilled. And I go ham in my writings on it, that I think you'd love it. But the need for the realism is not given to people, because we are in a business of lies. We are a business that started in carnivals. The carnies still exist. The con men are there, and they're going to be in every aspect of life and every aspect of business, that do blow smoke, do take their money, do show them a couple moves. They don't even show it to them right. They do send them piking. Is that what you said? Because it was awesome. Send them on their way. Now they're lost individuals who now exist solely in their wrestling bubble, so to speak. I call the wrestling bubble a lot because the amount of diehards that have converged into one area, it's almost as the fan base that doesn't want to let other people in. And, this fan base is always going to be here, and this fan base can always be placated and entertained and given our best efforts and given our best creative, because they would appreciate it, but they're going to be here. Whereas people outside of it that, like wrestling, maybe kind of love it, but don't live or die by it, are kind of chastised and thrown away, or not given something to sink their teeth into. And I think the one detriment we talked about earlier to all the ability to have all the content, and this promotion has 7 hours of TV a week, and this promotion has 6 hours of TV a week, and there's 2 over here, and there's 2 over here, and there's 1 here, there's 3 here. Like, I don't want to say it's watered it down, but it's diluted it, that it's so easily and easy to access that you don't fully invest in it. If any of that gibberish, I think so.
Yeah, no, that makes 100% sense. Michael, let's talk a little bit about your career as well. I mean, one question that I followed your career pretty much since it started, really. I've been a big fan of yours, and we like all kinds of wrestling here. We've watched TNA Impact, WWE, WCW, AEW. My question for you is as well, WWE tried to give you many pushes. Do you feel as it? Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. In their words, they tried to push you. Words, they tried to push you from a rest. Yeah, they were like, I've read a few articles today while I've been doing my research. I personally don't think they pushed you as much as they could have. From your point of view, and I think I can pretty much know the answer to this, did WWE drastically drop the ball with you?
I don't hate, because I understand that mindset, I think, can be applied to countless people and countless talents. The proverbial drop the ball, or they really missed the boat on, or they buried them, or they didn't give them an opportunity. Whereas I desperately tried not to be somebody that, while I was in that pass, that they dropped the ball on me. I think the potential and talent I had, it could far exceeded what was done. But again, I can't necessarily blame them as much as I would blame myself in times, because I allowed the system to defeat me when it was not easy. So throw away Derek Bateman in NXT days, but coming back, hotshot, world champion, self-created, carried a company, tools, ability, look, speak, like I'm made for that. Whereas one instance that was out of my control happens to carry over to me, to where I immediately become downtrodden because I didn't have a push. I had no reason to be called up. It was kind of thrown out there. And without anybody's vision behind you, it's very hard to succeed. But at the same time, it's my obligation and duty to put that vision into their faces as much as possible. And now, while I did try multiple times, I allowed the system to beat me, because there was one thing I wanted to never say. And this is when I was in Impact and talking to friends there, where they would constantly just kind of say, man, nothing matters. And like, I mean, that was hard for me to handle. It was hard for me to hear, where I was like, I will never say that. I will do everything I can to get to where I want to go, because I am firmly believe in who I am. And then, really quickly into it, I saw that system creeping, and I said, nothing matters. And I let it happen myself. So did they drop the ball? Of course. I'm fucking awesome, dude.
You are awesome. You are.
Just before we carry on, and sorry for interrupting, our co-host, one of our co-hosts, Fiona, you actually know rather well, because you sent her. I don't think you're going to be able to see this, so I'm going to try. There you go.
That's me. Yeah.
Yeah. So your message to Fiona said this: Fiona, you're the best manager I ever had. EC3. Now, I think she was on the road with you for a couple of days, maybe at Impact. She sold your merch. She collected your wages before shows. You may not remember her, but she said, when I said to her that we were on the call with the chat with you now, she sent that over to us. So sorry, Andy, for interrupting.
No, mate. Hey, anytime you get to get Fiona on this show, I'm grateful. She is an absolute queen of UK wrestling scene.
I need to come back to the UK now that all that.
Yes, that's another question.
Funny you should say that. Blanch has a promotion.
Yeah, funny you should say that. If only we knew someone with a promotion that could hook you up.
I'd like to come over there for a couple, and I'd like to do seminars and pass on the knowledge. Hell, I'll take Blanch with me. We can talk about creative hours and hours.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
As a quick one, apparently it was for British Championship Wrestling that you had. You was over here, but she was your road.
I get hit in the head a lot too, so but no.
I'll just tell her that you said that. That was his response.
I wrote that. I mean it. One thing I do not do is I always tell the truth. But if I can't tell the truth, I at least don't lie. And I probably meant it in the moment. And it's probably true today, because I can't think of one manager I had that was any good after that.
Michael, how much fun did you have with your Impact run? Like I said, I was a big TNA Impact fan. You seem to really enjoy yourself in Impact. Obviously, we hear stories about what's gone on behind the scenes at Impact, and we done an interview last week where people they were telling me and Adam, if you think like Bischoff and Hogan were the problem in Impact Wrestling, you really don't understand the wrestling business. I mean, you seem to really be yourself in Impact Wrestling. It'd be interesting to get it from your perspective, because I thought it was a good run then. I mean, what did you make of your time in Impact?
Oh, it was a great run. I had the longest undefeated streak in the company's history. I'm a 2-time world heavyweight champion. Like, when you use the term fun, at the end of the day, as much as we dissect and break this down and talk about it, and like, I take this shit super serious, which is strange from somebody who does some weird things within it. But the seriousness is not necessarily what's being shown as much as the effort and drive put behind it and the thought process going into it. But this, at the end of the day, if you want to do this for a living, it's because it's fun. And the Impact run, it was a culmination, like when I was young and I decided I wanted to be a professional wrestler, I was asked, and I think I was 16 years old, what? Well, what's your dream match? And I was like, I want to wrestle Kurt Angle for a world heavyweight championship. And they're like, yeah, whatever. And I did it, you know?
Yeah.
Great match as well.
And I won, by the way. But being able to manifest something at a young age and work so hard and go through the trials and tribulations where there was not a lot of fun. Developmental wasn't a ton of fun, you know, it wasn't fun tearing ACLs and getting knocked out by bad hands. It wasn't fun being called up only to be thrown on a game show that they didn't give two flying fucks about, that you made actually entertaining and got people involved who were the fact that you were therefore punished for it because the company's weird and run by sociopaths, to get terminated in a trying time, especially in your life, to then have the right place and the right time come about, give you the opportunity. It was an opportunity that I knew I didn't fear failing day one and it being done. So that gave me the confidence to at least step into the role and live through it. And then working with, you know, the greats of wrestling all the way up to Kurt, to have that kind of run and to be so involved in it creatively as well. I'm not saying like I booked myself to win, but to have creative interpretation and freedom and to develop myself along the way based on everything I learned from the past. Dude, it was the most fun I've ever had, you know? And by fun, I mean fulfilling. I lived the moment I dreamed of. And like I said earlier, like nothing's really could ever be perfect. Nothing can be perfect, but moments. And I had at least one perfect moment. So that's pretty fun.
We had SoCal Val was on with us last week. She lives in the UK now. She's only up the road. We asked her the question, what do you think was the downfall of Impact? Because for a moment there, you know, I know they took it on Monday nights, and was that the right move? And they went up against the WWE. But for a good little while there, I always people are comparing like AEW and now going up against WWE, and I'm like, well, Impact for me had a roster and a great chance not to take over WWE. That's a company that's been around God knows how many years. But for you, for someone that was involved in it, why do you think Impact didn't quite reach them levels where I thought for a year or so, or maybe 2 years, I thought it was going?
I think a lot of people listen to naysayers where I refuse to. Like I hear them, but I sure as hell don't listen to them. And I think you mentioned earlier, like, you know, you read, they said they tried to push me. Like when we read articles, we're reading interpretations of truth based on people's opinions. I'll be honest, guys, a lot of what's written and you read is, until you see it about yourself, you know, it's not real. It's not real journalism. It's not real interviews or insight. It's made up and lies spread fast. But at the same time, I mean, media is entertainment. But I think one of the issues was in that time where it was changing networks and Panda's kind of out and Dixie, and then we have everyone trying to buy in, and there's, you know, Game of Thrones is taking place with Corrigan and Anthem and Dixie and Jarrett, and everybody's wearing other people's opinions. And well, I wouldn't. And I'm like, you know what? If it ends tomorrow, then today's going to be our best fucking day. Let's go. Who cares? Of course, you care if you lose your job the next day because maybe you don't eat, but you can't live thinking of that future, especially that glum future. You have to live within the moments you have and do what you have in front of you. So again, too, I think it was a lot with a lot of people, wrestling is full of con men. I've said that. And a lot of people they want to take money. And if somebody has a lot of money or their family has a lot of money, they will tell them anything to usurp that power to give themselves more profit. And that's business too. So there's a lot of bad information and ulterior motives that were financially driven. And sometimes it comes at the expense of a very nice person who just wants to have a wrestling show on television to entertain the fans and maybe put herself on it too, but mostly to be a part of what we love about it. What happens behind closed doors is a very toxic place.
Oh, interesting. Go on, sorry, mate.
Yeah, I was just saying, you obviously left TNA and went back to, I always say never go back to an ex, and you did in a wrestling sense. Yeah, you're right.
Trust me, don't do it.
Yeah. Again, it just felt, and again, we're outsiders. We're outsiders looking in. We have no clue what goes on. As you say, you go on, you read these stories, and we always say on this program, we take them with a pinch of salt. We just see what they say. But you went back, and it didn't work for whatever reason. It didn't work out. Wherever it was.
It definitely. Yeah, no, I'll tell you about it. It definitely worked. Like, that was pandemic time. WWE firing. The decision I already made was to go to Ring of Honor. So that was somewhere I haven't been. Ring of Honor's TV got pushed back due to the pandemic. So we had months of lapse where I'm not doing anything. And I was also talking with Impact at the same time. Scott D'Amore, but I was also, I still am, I'm very close to Moose. So Moose, he's following me around like a fucking puppy. Like, he's doing everything. That's why he got so lean and jacked, and he actually became a badass for a moment. So to go to, like, when I was talking with Scott, Ring of Honor allowed me to go do a short-term thing. And my whole thing was that, I want to establish this kind of new offshoot persona, this unique self-actualized psychopath I've become, but I need a platform because my social media can only do too much, whereas Impact provides it. My intent was always to go back, and my sole reason for going back was to make Moose become a top guy. Like, so that was me. That would be a fun project for me because I like to pay forward some things. So I think that worked. Like, I really wanted to get in his head. This is on screen and this is literally in real life. And I wanted to coach him up, and I wanted him to become what I always thought he should be, not some guy that he's doing now. I hate, like, the dancing and the goofy and but he just likes to have fun, and he does have fun. But I saw an absolute murderous killer that can be a top level fucking draw, and I still see that. I just don't know if he has the capabilities mentally to understand what comes with that, and that's full commitment and dedication to a persona that you have to push nonstop. He's too nice of a guy, to be honest. But the Impact run, it was a quick fling with the old ex. It was just a few
tequilas, and then back with the ex, eh?
Like, this part's all right, so we can do something. It's not here long term. We know the deal. No strings
attached, though.
Yeah, it was a fruitful run. So it wasn't like go in and then I was out quick. But then Ring of Honor was starting, so I had to make that obligation. So yeah, it was actually a very good run.
Yeah, my colleague, one of our other co-hosts, Dave, he asked the question: Do you still talk to Rockstar Spud?
Yeah, I do.
I got a story with him. He obviously was English. He was at One Pro Wrestling. It was an event in Hull. He must have been about 12. No, he was about 18, so 18, 19. I ended up in a hotel lobby with him, AJ, Samoa Joe, Tracy Smothers, and Abyss. The last thing I remember, half past 6 in the morning. We've got a train at 8:30, and we've just finished the last drop of absinthe that Tracy Smothers had brought from the bar. But yeah, he's a great guy. I chat to Rockstar for ages.
Like, the way I envisioned that in my head, it was very comedic because I just kept seeing each character pop in. The stakes constantly rose, and then Smothers out of all the names I did not. That's a wild time.
It was. The funny thing, you could start that by the lift opening and me and my friend walking in, and Samoa Joe and AJ Styles are there. So that's how it started after the show, and how it finished was a very drunk walk to Hull train station to get the train back home.
Are you sure Rockstar Spud was there, or was that the green little flying thing that happens when you have the absinthe?
He was definitely there. I thought he owes me about 7 drinks. If you ever see him, he owes me about 7 pints, as we call them over here. 7 beers, Blanch. And by the way, Blanch, have you got another question before we start to wrap it up?
I totally know the Tracy Smothers thing as well. I've spent many a time with him, and yes, I get that. It's yeah. And Rockstar Spud as well. I wrestled on a show with Rockstar Spud probably about 20 years ago. So yeah.
God, we're old.
Say again?
God, we're old, huh?
Yeah, really.
Yes.
So,
It's real fast, just because it's fresh in my memory. We were talking about younger generations and coming up, like we had guys like Tracy Smothers who were working levels like this, bringing people like me up. So I owe a lot of my success to Tracy, because it's one thing training with your buddies and you're doing moves and you think you're fucking good. And then there's another thing, you get in there with a professional and it's just like the light bulb goes off and you're like, oh, I don't know shit. And so it's one of those guys that I got at least 3 to 5 experiences with in the ring. I mean, dozens total, but what I learned from him, and he's a big influence of mine. So
totally agree. I spent a couple of weeks with him every so often when he was over here, and just being in the car with him was one of the greatest honors ever. So yeah, totally agree.
Blanch, any questions? Any questions, my friend?
I just want to know when you are. I was going to say, do you fancy coming to the UK? When will this happen? Let's do it.
Let's make this happen.
Yeah, I'd love to just sit and just talk creatively, and yeah, it'd be great. It would be awesome. And yeah, Pro Wrestling Carnage would love to have you. So
grab my email for sure, and then you know what? Because we're going to do business, I'll clue you in on some of the stuff I'm doing. So I like your opinion on it. You seem a smart guy.
Thank you very much.
If you're okay, I can send him the email address.
Oh yeah, you guys can call me now. We're fucking.
Oh, we're buddies.
Okay, we certainly will. Andy, do you want to start?
Yeah, Michael. Honestly, it's been. We're always truly humbled when we get to have some wrestlers on our show, but you have been easily one of my most favorite. I could literally, like Blanche just said, I would love to just we have the inside the ropes tours over here where wrestlers just come over and chat. I reckon you'd be perfect for something like that. I would pay good money just to come and sit and listen to you talk about the industry and life. I mean, and I say this wholeheartedly and honestly, there's conceptions out in the world about yourself. They're all complete bullshit, because this has been one of the best 45 minutes that I've had since I've been doing this podcast. And I truly humbly mean that. You are, it's been so good just to sit down and spend some short time with you, my friend. So we thank you so much for joining us.
I can second that by saying this. I've never been so fascinated on a podcast.
Yeah,
I was just literally sitting here like, okay. It was one of those things you never know what you're gonna. What says like Forrest Gump in it, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get when you do a podcast. We try and do it so that we don't dig for shit. We don't want people, we're not one of these podcasts that we want you to come on and shoot on people for views or clicks or anything like that. We want people to say, tonight we've got EC3 on. Oh, great. I want to watch that because I want to listen to exactly what you've just done for 45 minutes. And that's captivated at least 3 of us to the point of where we're just sitting here like that. I can't thank you enough for that. It's been absolutely outstanding for me.
Well, damn, I wish I had a Yelp. You can leave me 5-star reviews. So no, it's a conversation. I think that's what's lacks the most, and whatever is said about whomever is usually always based on complete falsities and no facts provided, but like people having conversations about, subjects they love and treasure, engagement, and maybe we agree, maybe we disagree, but the ability to converse and have dialect is one of the most important and lost capabilities that I want to teach here. And just in general, like that's what we need. We need more of this, and I greatly appreciate your time. So before I come over too, we'll do another one. How about that? So
that would be we would 100% love.
I tell you what, if you come over, we'll do it live.
Yeah, we'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
We do it live. We do live ones at shows. We do interviews.
Yeah, we go around the UK. Like I was at a show at the weekend and we do live. We try and promote like we don't get me wrong, we're all WWE, AEW, Impact fans. But myself and Adam, and I know Blanche obviously works for a promotion in the UK. One of the big things we want to do with this podcast is reach out to the UK promotions and, showcase what we've got in this country. So we go out at the weekends and we go to indie shows and we interview the stars and we get to know them on a personal level and in character, out of character. So that's something that we're trying to do with our podcast. We don't want it to just be your stereotypical WWE podcast and just talk about what everyone else is talking about. We like to try and branch out a bit.
You go against the grain, and sometimes it's unfortunate because the shooting and the falsities get the clicks, but truth is based in this reality that we all thoroughly enjoy together. And if humanity could be more real with itself, then I think we'd be a better world. But regardless, thank you guys. I guess following me on @TheRealEC3 on Instagram. Email is ec3@freeec3.com. controlyournarrative.com will have information on the CYN cooperative. And for all aspiring UK wrestlers, because you guys actually get it a lot more than the Americans, I'm not going to lie to you, when something becomes available that I can give to you by not being there physically, but perhaps via the internet, that will be also available at controlyournarrative.com, or you'll see me talking about it. So whatever, we'll figure it out.
We'll do whatever we can.
Yeah, we will do whatever we can. You are more than welcome over here, my friend. We will share some beers with you when you come over to the UK next. But EC3, Michael, thank you so much for your time, my brother, and we will definitely catch you down the road.
Boys, thank you.
No worries. Thank you, my man. Take care. Take care. Adam, Blanch, pleasure as well to sit down and chat with you guys. We will do this all again in the next coming days. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. I've been your host, Andy Burrows, with Blanch and my good friend and tag team partner, Mr. Adam Cousins. Till next time, everybody, buckle down. Stay safe.